Hi everyone, welcome to the Aaron White Show, and I'm your host, Aaron. Today we have a fantastic guest, Luke Harvison. Luke is the owner-operator of The Farm Gym. Welcome to the show, Luke.
Thanks, Aaron. Stoked to be here, mate.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Hey, can you please tell me what The Farm Gym is and why you actually started it?
So the farm gym it's a bit of a throwback to what I learnt when I was younger working on a farm. So one thing I'd noticed, like my wife and I had noticed that while we were coaching and while we were helping humans build themselves working out of a CrossFit box, there still wasn't that link there to what could potentially be used as like all-round adaptive strength, like a good mental conditioning base, and also to dive into the self a little bit more. So being a bit more aware about yourself, like who you are and why you're doing things. So we decided to roll it all together, and we came up with a bit of a concept where we thought, well, we want to keep training people the way we do, except we need an environment that'll support this. And so the idea came forward. It's like, how about we take it to a farm and use the outdoors as they are, and that way we can tie in a bit of space with this idea. And it's kind of evolved over the 2.5 years we've been here to something that, like, now we have roughly a membership base of 80 people that come through every week and like grow that and have been growing so since we started the farm. So building on strength, on mental capacity, mental resilience, being able to be adaptive and conscious in the face of adversity, having a good spiritual or self-awareness as well. And yeah, we're situated on a 45 acre farm just outside of a small town, Nambour, on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. So it's a pretty idealistic place to be, to go to work every day. And yeah, the crew and crowd we get in here every day just make it so much easier. So
So
yeah,
do you actually live... Sorry, keep going.
No, you're right, mate.
All I was going to say is this is your home? You actually live on this farm?
We do. We don't own the farm. We're just leasing the farm, but we do live here. So my wife and I and our 3-year-old daughter live in a 40-foot container we've got in the farm. So
tell me more about that. So you actually live in a container. So how is that kitted out?
It's kind of a condensed house. So we were living in a giant Queenslander before this. And we decided, well, what rooms are we using actually? Because a lot of the stuff we were just cleaning and not really putting much time into it. So we figured out the bedroom, the bathroom, and the kitchen were the 3 biggest ones. And so we've set up a 40-foot container with a king-size bed down at one end, a whole bathroom section in the middle, and then a full-size kitchen down the other end of the container. So it's all, yeah, it's a fairly easy way to live. Like, everything's pretty condensed, yet there's still a lot of space, and all the space that would be living room and everything else is actually our front yard. It's all the outdoors. So we cook outside a lot, have some fires and barbecues a lot, and it's really helped propel us back out to the great outdoors and where we wanted to be.
How do you do your power? Is it connected to mains, or is it genset, or?
No, we're on mains power down here now. We'd like to take the whole farm off the grid eventually, but yeah, we're working towards that.
So they'll just be using solar panels, or what?
Yeah, eventually. We've got a lot of roof space up there with 3 giant sheds. So solar will hopefully be the go, unless something comes along in the next 10 years. It's an even better option.
Well, that's all pretty cool. Did you actually kit out the container yourself, or you buy like that, or how'd that come about?
No, we got the container built by a company down on the Gold Coast that specializes in these things. So it was literally kitted out and dropped off here. We did all the earthworks and that ourselves. So limited costs and as much as we could on that side. But yeah, it literally got delivered on a side loader truck and placed on the stumps, and we're off and racing, plug and play.
That's really cool. So out of these 80 people that come per week, how often do you do like daily classes for every second day, or what's the go with that?
Yeah, so our class structure runs on a daily basis. We generally do 4 strength and conditioning sessions on most days. Otherwise, on Wednesdays, we break it up a little bit and have some yoga running on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then also outdoor training, which we do with our youth team, so from 7 to 12, and then also with our adult group as well. So it gives everyone a chance to experience life outside the gym per se. So we have it's a 12 by 9 shed, which is kitted out like a fairly standard CrossFit gym. If if anyone's seen it inside of a CrossFit gym. So a lot of open space, but with rigs and barbells and kettlebells and so forth, which we do predominantly most of our training in there, as we're able to specialize in certain movements in that space. And then the outdoor scene, we have a 3.5K obstacle course that runs around the farm, like in and out through a lot of the orchards and the growing spaces. So we've been able to utilize all the parts of the farm, because what's not good for farming is generally good for running through with an obstacle course. So it makes it pretty space efficient out there. And yeah, it gives the team a chance to put their training into perspective and go and test it in more of a real world scenario, rather than in a very kind of controlled environment as a gym generally is.
Oh, so that's really awesome. You're obviously thinking outside the box. Because you're doing the obstacle course, or have you thought about doing, you know how they have that tough mudder, like once a year, like some sort of like annual event? Do you do anything like that?
Yeah, we do. We as far as my wife and I go, we've both competed in a couple of those, and yeah, we've done quite well, considering we hadn't trained for it specifically, but our training definitely carried us forward into a fairly good placing. My wife got a second in one of her events in the Spartan race in Australia, and yeah, it's something we're like helping a lot of our crew work towards as well. There's another Spartan race coming back to the Sunshine Coast next year in June, so we've got a lot of our guys using that as their driver for where they want to get to with their physical training for next year. So it's in essence, it'll be a 5 or a 10K race, including like I think it's 20 to 30 obstacles. So yeah, it kind of fits in a lot with what we do here. And yeah, it's nice to see that the style of training we do as well really carries over to being able to utilize your strength capacity and your aerobic capacity in more ways than just straight up and down. So, I mean, life's not very linear all the time. Generally, you're kind of moving this way, that way, and all over the shop. So we try and replicate something that will build a functional base underneath that.
No, that's awesome. So do you have animals on the farm? Like, is it like a proper farm that you run? You do cows and sheep and stuff, or what do you actually do?
The farm itself is primarily an orchard. So it was an avocado orchard when we took it over that had some bananas and some citrus on it as well. But we adjust our neighbours' cows and move them around through the paddocks as well to help manage the grass load on the space, because cows are like the world's best natural lawnmowers. Yeah. But essentially, as far as owning any livestock, we don't at the moment. We are looking at moving forward into laying hens, as far as some free range laying hens goes. We've penned that down for a project to start next year. Yeah, we're trying to get as many micro businesses and micro communities working out of here as we can. So small scale things that people can generally start up on the side almost as a hobby, that have the potential to move like into a profitable small business. So working with a few different people with a few different ideas on options for that, just to try and utilize the space in a less traditional sense of farming in general, of having one crop over the whole entire space and specializing in that. We'd rather have a multitude of small people specializing in smaller crops and smaller spaces, but having that constant input and energy of different people coming through, it will generally lend the energy to the whole farm, which so far has been carrying it along really well.
That's a pretty smart idea. So basically, you're paying whatever you would be as as your lease payment. But then if you get in these other people to lease out different parts, you could probably down the track with their money pay your lease. So you don't have to worry about that, basically rent, having to pay that. So you can focus more on the gym, which is obviously a primary thing.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly right. So it's been a lesson we've had to learn over the 2.5 years we've been operating, that where your energy goes, your focus flows as well. So when we've been focusing on bringing the farm, like doing a project out on the farm, it's like my focus and energy shifts away from the gym. But I mean, the gym is our primary interest here at the moment, and it's where both my wife and I and all the staff we have need to bring our A game every day, whereas the farm is a little bit more flexible, as in trees take longer to do things, so you have time and space to do it in. But at the same time, it can go a few weeks and all of a sudden something will be in a bit more of a situation than it was a couple of weeks ago on the farm. So it's a bit of a balancing act while we're still young at this game, but the more people we bring in to manage more things, and ultimately have them invest in their own doings here, the more we can shift our focus onto the things we're actually really good at, and the objectives that bring in the income and boost the business to the place.
The town that's close to you, is that big enough to be able to bring in more members, or is it quite small? You know what I mean? Like, have you got that
Yeah,
chance
so
to grow? So there's like plenty of people that can, once they hear about you guys and know how good you guys are, that they can actually come. You know what I mean?
yeah, indeed. Yeah, so we're really lucky being here on the Sunshine Coast. So the like 20 minutes away is Maroochydore and Mooloolaba and the beach, and 20 minutes or kind of 40 minutes the other way is Noosa. So we're in a bit of a big triangle as far as like where Nambour is. It's pretty central to the whole coast. So we're in between like the big areas down the beach, and there's a very highly populated area up along a range behind us. So the farm gym is actually situated on a fairly high traffic link road between the towns above us and Nambour on the coast. So we get a lot of traffic driving past it every day. And yeah, I mean, we've got our capacity set on 100 plus members as far as we see it now, until we can get like the business structure up to catch up with all of that. But yeah, it's definitely, growth isn't a drama at all. We're quite happy to grow with our capabilities as far as business management goes. Like we have never put too much pressure on ourselves to get big fast, and that growth structure has really helped over time as well with our confidence in our business and what we do as well. So it's been slow, consistent, and steady, which has been lovely to deal with, because I mean, nothing massive was happening too fast, and all of a sudden there wasn't big droughts where there wasn't people coming in. So we've had a constant drip feed of new memberships all the time. Along with that, we're doing a really good job of holding on to our existing members, so keeping their training fun, keeping them progressing, and keeping everyone ultimately bought into the journey that they're on.
That's awesome. Do you do like a weekly barbecue for the members and stuff like that, or do you do something like that type of stuff, or not?
We do. Not so much weekly. We run a harvest, what we call it is our harvest block. So it's literally every season we'll run a 6 to 8 week training block that it starts with a planting in the garden. So we also have it's close to an acre now of garden beds out the front of the gym that are just for the membership base there. So we all work in them together on Saturdays and after some of the sessions, but everything that grows in there is for our members to take home. So our harvest block starts with the planting, and we also test ourselves that week on whatever capacities we're testing for, be it like strength-based, power, speed, endurance, whatever it may be. And then throughout the whole training cycle, by the time we get to the end of that block, generally what we've planted at the start is ready to be harvested or pretty close to it. And we'll sit around, like we'll harvest at the same time as we test our capacities and check in with our improvements. And then that Saturday at the end of the harvest block, we'll have a giant long table or just a big gathering, and everyone brings in a dish with something they've made from the garden. And we just sit down and share and have a giant barbecue there, and literally just share the winnings of all the effort we've put in to get to that point. So it's a beautiful way to celebrate everyone's journeys. So it's not just about what you've achieved in the weight room, or not just about where the garden's gone, but it's the fact that you've kind of grown at the same time as something you've been a part of with nature as well. So yeah, it really helps magnify the importance of the process of growth.
That's so cool. That is so like out of the box. Is there any other like farm gyms in Australia, or you guys are the only one? Or
we're pretty sure we're the only one in the world that's doing what we're doing. There's a few other gyms around the world named the Farm Gym, but I think they're predominantly just a weights training gym on a farm. There isn't anyone that I know of that's combined the obstacle course scenario with the strength conditioning and yoga training, as well as feeding their own members with their own produce. So I like to think we're a world's first. If we're not, congratulations for someone else for coming up with that brilliant idea as well. But I think both my wife and I feel it's a really important direction that we can go as a species, really being able to like know where our food comes from, have faith that what you're eating is actually really quite fresh and full of what it's meant to be of, and also have access to the whole growing cycle as well. So on a lot of those harvest days, the planting days as well, the guys that have kids will bring them down and let the kids do some of the work in the garden. So it's pretty amazing to watch like a mum and a dad plant some plants with their 2, 3, 5-year-old kids and see just the absolute excitement on their face of doing something like that. So
That's so
it's
cool.
a pretty big family affair up here.
Oh, well, it sounds like you've really built like a really good community. As you said, the members are bringing their kids up. That was one of the questions actually I was going to ask, but you just nailed it. Well, here's one for you. How did you grow up? Did you grow up in a farm or in the city? Sounds like to me it's more farm type thing.
It was. So the farm we're actually on now, it was where I started work when I was about 7. So my dad was managing it at the time, and it was a passion fruit farm back in the day. And yeah, it was a cool little throwback to that whole journey of how I learned to work hard and what it meant to work hard, and how the community of people we had working up here all worked together to get this monumental job done. So a passion fruit farm, for anyone that's never seen one, literally consists, it looks a lot like a vineyard, as far as there's vines for kilometers and kilometers and kilometers. And every day during the fruiting season, you need to walk every one of those kilometers of passion fruit vine to pick up whatever fruits on the ground and whatever you can find on the vine. So daily we'd get 10 to 20 Ks under our belts of walking with a bucket behind us picking fruit. And that was from about 7 or 8 years old up until I was 19. So I did learn a lot from this place, and took a lot away from it. So it was like most of the time where my friends in high school and that were out partying on Tuesday nights, because we used to get Wednesdays off. I'd be at home asleep because I'd have to come to work at the farm on the Wednesday and then all weekend as well. But it was part of what our family was doing at the time. So as much as like I wanted to be out hanging out with my friends, it was kind of a bit of an honor to be able to stand up here and get the work done next to my dad and my brother as well at the same time. So yeah, it was good. And my wife's the same. Her family grew up on ginger farms out in Yandina, which is a town close by to here. So her whole life was spent growing up around people picking ginger, the whole growth cycle of ginger, and the farming ethos runs true through both of us. So it was a nice kind of homecoming, I suppose you could say, coming back to the land and working back on the land again. But definitely the time away from here, it highlighted the desire to be back onto it. So the time where I spent working over in WA, that was great. And I also spent a lot of years working overseas on Survivor and other TV shows, building props and being quite creative there. So it was a big gap in between, but it's felt like this whole cycle's returned to the start, and it's like I get to really use all the skills that I brought from abroad and all the other jobs that I've done and put them into practice in building this place.
Can you tell me about that Survivor? So were you a contestant or a prop builder? What did you actually do there?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career on the show as a what they call the dream team. So we'd get to go and try out all the challenges before they'd actually film them with the contestants. So when they film, when the contestants on show, it's like whatever they capture there is what's going to be. They only get one run through of it. So they try and set it up so they understand the challenge, how it's going to work really well, plus where to place all the cameras as the action's happening. So our job for the first year was literally to go and play on all these challenges that you see on TV. So it was the American Survivor Series, and they had quite a bit of funding to make some pretty phenomenal challenges and contests for the guys. So that was a real thrill. And then from there, I started working in the art department, so became one of the challenge builders as well. So it was just a phenomenal work atmosphere. You'd be brought a sketch in the morning of it's like, try and make this out of this, and out of all the stuff we had, you'd literally come up with a way to bend, weld, cut, glue, screw something together that was exactly what they were after, and then it'd get all aged up, so make it look like it had been around for 100 years. So yeah, it was a phenomenal learning period, and the teams we worked with in the Cook Islands, Palau, Guatemala, Panama, and Vanuatu were just absolutely phenomenal to be around. And at the same time, while we were in these places, experiencing the local culture on a deeper level than just a tourist, because we were generally in places close to where the tourism activities were, but away from it as well, so we could have our own locations for the show. So you get to know a lot of the locals and spend a lot of time with them on a lot more of a personal level than just the face value of being a tourist and just knowing you're going to leave in a couple of days. So yeah, I learned a lot about the physical endurance of people, and also how being part of something really makes a difference while I was in Guatemala there. So a lot of the local populations had very little money, and some parts were going through civil unrest at the same time. So yet at the same time, they were all so happy and so willing to help. Like we had to, one of the more testing things I've ever done was carry 2 parts of a raft through, it was about a kilometer of jungle to get it to this lagoon where the contestants were going to paddle it downstream. And these rafts, I'd made them, but mistakenly, to my unknowingness, I'd made them very heavy. And so manpower was our only option. And we had a whole team of Guatemalans there to help get us through. And there was one like fairly old gentleman there. He must have been in his 70s or so, and he couldn't actually carry too much in his hands. But while we were carrying it along, he asked everyone to stop and crawled in underneath the raft and then just pushed his back up against it just to do what he could do to help everyone out. And like that blew my mind, because he stayed there for the whole time and hopped out of under there when we made it to the location with a smile on his face. And it's like, yeah, it was one of the lessons I'll always remember in human potential, like being able to tap into that, knowing what you can do for a team and why it means something to you. So yeah, aside from the construction lessons and just the general building environment and all the team we worked with, there was a lot that I took away from the local populace as well.
How did you get that job?
I was through a girlfriend of mine at the time. So her uncle was, he was one of the directors, Dan Mundo, who's still a good friend of mine. And he was directing the art department, and he offered her a position on the dream team. She went and did the first year on the dream team, then got another role. I think she was in the assistant director's role. And then, yeah, she said, well, do you want to come and try it as well? And I was like, yes, please. So it's quite ironic. Before that, I was still young. I was only 19 at the time. And I was driving trucks around the Sunshine Coast here, and I was quite adamant that the money I was earning and what I was doing was good enough for the moment. Like, there's no need to travel. But I'm glad that Riley and one of my aunties sat me down and said, it's like, mate, you need to go now. Like, don't miss this opportunity. So yeah, I can be quite stubborn in some things, and I was pretty adamant that I didn't need to go away and do stuff. I was happy doing my thing. But yeah, I'm forever grateful for that little bit of perspective on change and don't get too comfortable for too long. So it's led to a great many lessons and, yeah, a great outlook on life.
It's so true. You got to get out there. There's lots of, I remember, especially working in the mining industry, there's lots of these old guys in their 60s. They're like, never been overseas. The only place I've ever been is overseas is Rocknest. It's like, God, bloody get out and do something. See the world. There's like, as you said about seeing the poverty and all that type of stuff, it's just, it blows your mind how different every country is compared to ours. You can definitely get in that comfort zone and just plod through life and, just wake up, work, go home. Before you know it, you're bloody 70 and your body's too knackered to bloody go venture out and do anything anyway. What we might pop onto is the mining. What actually made you get into mining?
It's an interesting question, because my dad had spent a while out in the center of Australia doing seismic work and some RC drilling. And he always told some pretty cool stories about that when I was younger. And I think it must have been sitting in the back of my mind. So after Acacia and I met, we spent 6 months living together here on the Sunshine Coast and realized that the coast it wasn't really going anywhere for us at that moment. So we literally packed up a little Suzuki Swift and headed west. Got what do you call it? I literally rented a room off some South African guys and got ourselves established in Perth and started hunting around. So my aim was to become a driller. My dad had gone down the same path, and so I thought, well, that's a good enough start. And it led to a pretty fun-filled 5 or 6 years while we were over there. So the mines itself was like, the job was a means to an end, but we were also working along those lines of like, well, what can we do if we can set ourselves up a bit here now? We want to get married and be able to pay for that on our own, and also pay for our whole honeymoon on our own. And while we were there as well, we bought a house. So we started ticking the boxes in that sense. But yeah, after a while, after a few years of working for a few different companies, we started to get itchy feet to cruise back to the coast. So at the same time, we just had a little girl, and we were missing our family a lot. So we didn't actually have any family or relations over in Western Australia at all. So yeah, that started to leave a bit of a hole in our hearts. And while the journey was fun filled and that, we thought, well, it's probably a good time to, like, going back to that not getting too comfortable thing. It's like we're starting to get pretty comfortable here, so let's just turn it all upside down and change and go again, see what we can do.
So when did you
So
have sorry, keep going.
Oh, and I was just going to say, it was probably the last year and a half in mining was probably I almost did my own personal degree in how to start a business and what I needed to do to be able to understand the type of training and run the type of business I needed to do through endlessly listening to podcasts like yours here and a few other people's, as well as audiobooks after audiobooks. So I was lucky enough working in the drilling rigs down there that we could have some like music or some audiobooks playing while we were working and not affect anything else. So I spent a lot of time listening to various things and did a lot of note taking as well. So it was kind of it was like a scholarship whilst working in a way.
So that last year and a half, is that when you thought, I'm going to build the farm gym, or you knew you wanted to start a business, but you didn't know what it was, or did you know, or what?
Yeah, not directly. No, the farm gym, I think it came, the actual name for it, when we were on our drive back over. So we drove, well, as I said before, we drove over in a Suzuki Swift, and then when we went back, we drove back in a Land Rover with a Suzuki Swift on the train and all of our goods in a container. So we kind of upped the ante a little bit in the move back. But the farm gym the idea came to fruition on the drive back over. I think I can actually almost remember the spot where we were just before we were starting to head out onto the Nullarbor, where we were like, what about the farm gym? We're like, yeah, that sounds good. So we knew that we wanted to train people and help continue the kind of coaching we were already doing as far as the strength and conditioning works. But the rest of the journey kind of became more self-evident as we started and started to work with the space. So a lot of things fell into place in that last year, where we started to realize what our new direction was. And then it was leaving things open for opportunities to arise was probably our greatest move there. So we didn't try and pressure ourselves into do too much, as in we didn't really know exactly what we were trying to do. So we just kept going and kind of asking more questions. And eventually a bit of a plan came up. Like before we left, we almost bought another gym business off some of our friends that we were working with at the time. And then we almost bought another farm. Well, it wasn't so much a farm, but it was a large gymnastics center on a 5-acre block near where we were living in Perth there. So there was a few things that happened that kind of came to that point. Is this really what we wanted to do? And then we were like, not quite. So let's keep looking. And eventually we just moved back here and spent, we managed to leverage ourselves well enough to take 6 months to start the business and not have to rely on it to bring in any income for the first 6 months, so we could comfortably grow and really understand what we were trying to do. Because it was a very, we'd created something quite different. We weren't trying to copy anyone else's ideas or processes from the get-go, but giving ourselves that time to actually get it to work was really amazing. It was kind of what it's made it today. So we're able to act from the basis of our values rather than trying to make money out of it in the first place. So there was very little stress initially, which was very comforting starting a small business that way. I'll put it that way.
No, you've definitely done the right way. You're a very smart guy there, Luke.
Well, thanks, mate.
No worries, just stating obvious. Hey, so let me get this straight. That last year, you're drilling. During the time that you're drilling, you're listening to podcasts and improving your mind. And on your weeks off, did I get this right? Were you training other clients, CrossFit type people? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, exactly. So while I was away at work, that phrase of you are the person. Oh, hang on, what is it? Sorry.
You are the average of the 5 people they hang out with.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
basically what you
exactly.
surround
Thank
yourself
you.
with. If you surround yourself with turkeys, you become a turkey. If you surround yourself with eagles, you'll soar like an eagle, pretty much.
Exactly, mate. So I found a lot of those people in the podcast or as mentors on like audiobooks or podcasts as well, and I would just listen and kind of absorb their stories. And it was quite funny because I'd go home from work and I'd be talking to Case like, these are my friends at work, and she's like, who is that person? I was like, oh, sorry, it's just a dude that owns a gym over in like America somewhere. But yeah, I was literally aligning myself with these people that they were right there next to me, and I became, like, I'd like to say I've become a product of what a lot of those guys were teaching as well. And I also found a great mentor, Keegan Smith, who runs the Real Movement Project, who really helped bring a lot of what I was doing here to life, as far as like asking the questions of, it's like, what do you value? What's the legacy you want to leave? Like asking those deeper questions than just face value, like, why are you doing it? And the community he built around Real Movement as well has been like, they've been our bouncing boards. So there's a lot of other Real Movement gyms around Australia that are really taking a look outside the box and how to provide a experience of growth and training to humans that really benefits everyone fairly holistically as a whole, rather than just in any one certain aspect. So yeah, I had some really great mentors in that last year and a half that kept the fire going to really make the change, because it was a case of walking out of a 6-figure job into like a 1-figure job for the first few months, and then maybe 2 figures if we were lucky after that. So yeah, it was a big jump to just cut all the ties and kind of burn the boats after we'd reached land. But it was a very comforting, confidence building way to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's so cool that you actually said all that, because that's basically what I'm doing right now. So for the
Oh, well
listeners,
done.
yeah, for the listeners that don't know, obviously Luke was doing the drilling, but I drive the dump trucks, and I do exactly the same thing while I'm driving around the dump trucks. I'm not listening to the music. I'm listening to podcasts I've downloaded. So I've got the likes of Ed Milet, Bedros Cooley, and all these type of guys that are pouring all this knowledge into me. And I've never met these guys. More than likely, never will meet these guys. But they are like my mentors. I'm learning so much just from doing that. So yeah, don't waste your time driving around in your truck or your drill rig. Just listen to the music. Actually improve yourself by listening to podcasts. That's what I'm trying to do with this show. I'm trying to bring all this knowledge to people just to make the world smarter. There's so much stuff that we don't know. And yeah, we're about to run out of time. Hey, Luke, if people want to follow the Farm Gym, where would they go to, like, for your Instagram and Facebook and stuff?
Oh, great. Yeah, so the Farm Gym itself is the Farm Gym on Facebook, the Farm Gym, and on Instagram, the Farm Gym SCH. You'll find our Farm Gym logo. It's a tractor tire with the Farm Gym written in italics through it, orange and blue. That'll be us, because as I said, there is a few other farm gyms out there on Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, once you see the logo, you'll know it's us, and we're the only Australian-based one. And yeah, I mean, we're over the moon to share our journey here. It's essentially the change that we want to see for humanity in general. It's a pretty big phrase saying that, but at the same time, if everyone knew themselves a little bit better and had the capabilities and capacity to do what they need to do every day to make it a great day and achieve the levels they want to achieve, I think all in all, we generally get to be in a pretty amazing place, rather than have kind of fear and unhealthiness as a kind of general precursor to where we're heading. So without going down that road of like what could be better about humanity, it's like, I think in all of us there is someone absolutely great just waiting to be unleashed, and it's just going through the journey of helping that inner person, the who you really are, find the safety and confidence to be able to let loose and do what you're doing. So just like what you're saying there, Aaron, knowing that like whilst driving trucks and working in the mines right now is serving a purpose and ticking the boxes, that it's like you may not have been born a truck driver. Like it may not be the thing that's completely scratching your itch, and that thing may still be out there. So if there was a message I wanted to leave with anyone, it's like just keep searching, but yeah, do all you can to best yourself each day. Because I mean, if you can shut your eyes each night and be happy at the way you've gone about your day, happy and confident going to sleep that you know you've given it your best. If you wake up the next day or not, like you'll know you've gone to sleep achieving. So
No, that's an awesome way to end out the show. Thanks for saying that. Well, yeah, I'll wrap it up. Did you have fun, Luke, coming on the show?
yeah, definitely, mate. Thank you. It's always a great experience talking about what you live every day, because a lot of the time you just live it and you never really reflect on it. And so it's yeah, and I just love sharing what we do here at the farm, plus my story as well. So I know to a lot of the mining guys, if you're out there listening to this, like take heed to what Aaron said before, and like really use the opportunity you are out there on your own, like if you can safely, and learn something else. Because if you can layer your life, like add things on top of things on top of things while you're doing something, it's like you're only going to get a richer, more abundant life in the end. So use the time out there on the mines as best as you can to become as knowledgeable and excited about life in general. And whether mining is your life passion or not, it doesn't matter. It's like either way you go, you're only going to become better at what you're